And that's quick. We are live, but as I'm getting prepared and ready to go.
I had to text our daughter. She has our son, so I was trying to see what she needed. Check on the kids.
That was quick music bed, wasn't it? Just
Wow, it just cut off. I thought you did that.
It just cut off. So we have another great show. I'm ready. I'm excited. I always say that. I'm always excited to do a podcast. It's a nice, lovely day today, right? The weather was
terrific.
The weather was real good outside and everything. So I'm gonna bring up. We got a good show, people. Thank you for tuning in. We're saying it again. It's that time of year. It is campaign time. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's running for different offices. There's a circuit court judge. There's the magistrate. There's board of education seats. Family court judge. There's also the mayor is up, and we're gonna have a mayoral candidate running here today, Mr. Patrick Farrell. And we're gonna introduce you to him. We're gonna get more into that and talk about that a little bit more as we go into the show. Cannot dismiss to say we want to thank all of our sponsors that's helped here at the Community Center, the Positive People Association, Stars Just Theater Troupe. We like to thank the Glorious Church of God in Christ for providing us a van to help us get transportation to get kids to and from. We also like to thank Joe Williams and Basic Supplies. Why?
Because he provides our basic supplies.
Thank you, Joe, for that. We also want to thank Michael Thomas, Tudor's Biscuit World on 20th Street.
Go grab you a biscuit.
Yeah, and he's always bringing biscuits back.
Yeah, he's always bringing
to the center for the kids and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We also wanted to thank Refresh Appalachia for helping us build our community gardens, our Anita Cohatrick LCH community gardens that we have here at the community center. We also want to thank Toyota, hashtag Let's Go Places. Also would like to thank Stella Fuller Foundation for helping us with our sports broadcasting program. We also want to thank All Here Together Productions, a 3-building mural project. And we're still continuing our 3-building mural project and hope that we can complete this building as our 3rd building project. So we want to thank them too as well. We also want to thank all of our council members and all of our community members. Everyone has donated or gave to the Positive People Association. The Biz would like to thank you all for that. So
absolutely.
I got a little people like that. And if I forgot anybody,
charge it to the head and not the heart.
Not the heart. It ain't my fault. And I also want to thank, I have the most beautiful co-host, Miss Lady T.
Thank you. He just got finished talking to a candidate for the family court. I think he had to say that.
The pause for the cause as we give you our introduction. Welcome to the bed. We're talking economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Family. It's your boy NormBeezy
and Lady T.
Spitting straight facts.
He loves his sound effects.
I also want to thank Mr. Michael and 304 TV for helping us with our soundtrack and letting us record the song that Lady T was just singing. So
that was you?
That was me. That was me.
A disclaimer to say that. Yeah. So, oh man.
Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
We're gonna
straight. So we have this little...
Well, let's wait.
You want to wait for the Did You Knows? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what did you say? You didn't want to go straight into it.
Well, I was just gonna, because on the last podcast we were talking about. Let me ask you about. So did you watch the draft?
And at any time, we like our live studio audience. Anytime you want to say something on this when we're talking about this, you can.
You can be heard on these microphones from there. Yeah. Did you watch the WNBA draft?
I did not.
You did not watch it. Okay. So I was just saying, and I won't go into this because it's my soapbox. So, we have Caitlin Clark, that was the #1 draft pick. And then we have others like Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso. But I saw that Caitlin Clark was going to make like $338,000. And I said, but there's so much inequity for the women and the men, because first round draft pick for the men made what? few million
About
dollars.
55.
That's right.
Yeah. So there's some things we need to do. So that means we need to support them. We need to bring out the crowd so they can start getting more advertisement, more views, whatever it needs to be, so their salaries can go up.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's capitalism.
It is. It is.
My 2 cents was that, and they will get more endorsement money.
Yeah.
So that might be what her salary money is going to be, what the league can pay based off the, whatever ticket sales and things in that manner. But whoever, what may be, Reebok, Nike, Adidas, whoever picks her up is going to pay her millions of dollars just to be the face. You know what I'm saying? Not just those shoe companies, but fashion, whatever it might be. They'll get endorsements, and their money will start going up too.
Well, I hope so, because that was just my little soapbox for today.
It's a good soapbox.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's all about viewership. It's all about what kind of revenue you can generate. It's a good segue later on to talk about entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
how having equity in a business, right? She has equity in her brand
Yes.
to get products, and that's how she's going to make money because there aren't that many people watching the WNBA to be able to support the salaries like they do the NBA,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that makes sense. I was just a little upset about that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair.
It does not seem fair.
Yeah,
And the media need to put them on more channels instead of just putting them
Yeah.
on channels that people can't see. So
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Okay, so we have our little segment where I talk about little fun facts or just little things that maybe you didn't know.
okay.
So, did you know that on an airplane, that the little tray tables that come down, we think they're so clean that some of them are so clean you can eat your dinner off of or whatever. But according to one study, tray tables are up to 8 times dirtier than the flush button in the average plane toilet. So think about that next time you go to put your tray down.
You trying to get me not to fly? What is it? I know I shouldn't eat while I fly.
Right.
I think a can of Lysol.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So wipe
Fill the
those
cup.
trays off.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
So I'm going to ask you this too. Do you know why Election Day is on Tuesday?
I know it's in the state law and probably federal law, but I don't know why it's on a Tuesday. No.
Okay. It's because Congress.
Can't answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead. I didn't mean to leave you
I
out.
can't answer because it's the same
You
question.
already
but,
know.
But my answer was because I'll say the same. I said Sunday people went to church and they didn't want to go out to the polls on Monday, so they chose Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah.
That was my answer.
It was actually Congress chose this day because in 1845, many people had to travel quite a ways to vote. Since many families did not travel on Sundays, voting on Tuesday gave them all of Monday to travel if necessary.
I like it.
So there you go.
That's
Did you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
and did you know is brought to you by Toyota again. # Let's go places. Well, thank you for
Wait a minute, I got one more.
Oh,
I got
we
one
got-
more. I'm
no, no,
sorry.
don't rush her.
Did you
Did
know?
you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
Yeah, don't rush my did you knows. So if you all had to guess what the the first and the second most popular sandwich in America is, what would you say?
I'm sorry, you have to say that again.
If you had to guess what the number one and the second most and the number two most popular sandwich in America is, what would you guess?
I've got some questions first.
Uh-oh.
Is, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I see where you're going with this.
I mean, what defines a sandwich?
I see where you're going.
You got bread, you got meat.
That's
see where
true.
you're
I'm
going.
going to say no, though, for
Relish
this
and
question.
coleslaw
Okay,
on that hot dog.
I'm gonna say a ham sandwich and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Ham sandwich was number one.
Okay.
Ham sandwich made with cheese and either mustard or mayonnaise, but that was not number two.
Okay.
Peanut butter wasn't number two? I'm waiting on a peanut butter sandwich. Bologna.
When I was a kid, it was bologna.
Bologna.
Probably not
Fried bologna with cheese. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm telling y'all what I like, right?
Okay,
That
yeah,
bacon sandwich.
Bacon sandwich.
Yeah, good old
That's a
BLT.
good sandwich.
Yeah, it is.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it's better than bologna or fried, fried bologna sandwich. but-
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, thank you again, Miss Lady T, for
Did
our...
you know?
Did you know? Did you know?
Did you know?
Did you know?
All right, so we're going to get into it because, it's a busy time of year for a lot of these candidates. I got a chance last night. I went out to meet the candidates, hosted at the Eddie Lewis Community Center, hosted by the FDCD, the Fairfield Development Corporation. as well as the local chapter of the NAACP hosted Meet the Candidates event for Fairfield. And we got a chance to go over and see the many candidates that were running, and we got a chance to listen to the candidates. And it was really something that was needed. There was some, I was standing next to, one of the members of the community, and I'm trying to listen to the candidates and, fussing about stuff, but it was cool. It was great. It was great. You get that. So, and one of the candidates that was there that we got to meet, obviously, is running for mayor of the city of Huntington, Mr. Patrick Farrell. So, thank you for coming.
Yeah, welcome to the bid.
Welcome to the bid.
Thank you.
And Lady T.
You've got many accolades here too. We have some good candidates here. So Patrick Farrell was born and raised in Huntington and is a military veteran with combat-proven leadership experience. After attending the U.S. Air Force Academy, he flew F-15 fighter jets. I want to talk about you flying here in a minute.
Yeah.
For almost 10 years, and then earned a master's degree in business administration from Duke University. I won't hold that against you either.
Thank you.
No, that's a good school.
Yeah.
Patrick and his wife, Kate, then returned home to raise a family and help grow jobs in West Virginia. He's an entrepreneur and business owner who successfully led multi-million-dollar companies, including Service Pump and Supply, a company that helps businesses and cities solve their clean water, wastewater, and stormwater problems. Service is one of Patrick's core values. In addition to his military service, he provided service to the state as a member of the West Virginia Veterans Council, and then again as a board member for the West Virginia Economic Development Authority. For the last 7 years, he has served on the Marshall University Board of Governors, including as the chairman of the board and as the chairman of the athletic committee. Patrick is now running for mayor of Huntington. His desire to continue his service is not about politics. It's a natural extension of the lifelong love of his hometown. He is running to address critical issues like drugs, crime, homelessness, and flooding, so we can make Huntington a better place to live and work. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Patrick. I'll call you Mr. Patrick.
You can call me whatever
That's
you
cool,
like.
man. Yeah, Mr. Farrell. So your party affiliation
Yep.
is
I'm a Republican.
okay. Just wanted to
Yeah, and let me say a piece about that, because in my opinion, national politics has nothing to do with our local problems.
Yeah.
Right. I think if you look at the problems that we're facing here, whether it's again drugs or crime or homelessness or the flooding problem, like they don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican.
Right.
Right. And I don't care. I don't think that any of the national parties are going to come here and solve our problems. We are. Right. And I chose to run as a Republican primarily because I've been an independent for a long time. And I decided that I wanted to win. So you have to go one party or the other.
Yeah.
And in order to not necessarily win, but to govern this city, if we're going to fix these problems, we have to collaborate with our county commission, which is all Republican. You have to collaborate with our West Virginia legislature, all Republican. Our federal delegation, all Republican. And I have more confidence in my ability to work with them and to bring resources here. And no matter what party you're in, once we get to the city council, once we get to the city. And so I really don't think it matters. So much so that I have been lobbying to change the city charter so that the mayor's races and the city council races are not partisan, that we run as nonpartisan candidates like you do for judges, the Board of Education, or the Park Board. I want to change the charter so that we can just be Huntingtonians and solve our problems.
Yeah.
okay.
So why mayor and why now?
Great question. It has never been part of my life plan to be mayor. I can assure you of that. Because I have plenty to do. I am sincerely living my dream. Right. Kate and I came home after spending 10 years in the Air Force. We got married. We wanted to come home and to raise our family here. I thought the way that I was going to help West Virginia was to help grow jobs. Right. I thought that's what we needed. And quickly I figured out that growing jobs wasn't the only thing that we needed. That's why I got involved at Marshall, because I realized that education was the part of the core of what we needed to do. I've been proud of the time that I've spent at Marshall. We have turned around a 13-year enrollment decline, and now we're growing again. There's so much activity in the city. There's so much optimism and opportunity, and I want to make sure that the rest of the city benefits from what's going on at Marshall, because they can't just be about Marshall. It can't just be about our hospital system, which are two important systems, right? It has to be about the city itself. And so I feel like we have this very narrow window of time. We've got a great president at Marshall, and there's things going on there. We've got federal money that's coming in that's probably not going to come again. in a generation, right? And if we don't fix these problems now, I think we're going to miss that opportunity.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that with you a little bit later on, but I don't want to get right
got
into
right in. She got
right in. I know,
into,
I
you know what
know.
I'm saying? But no, like about speaking on Marshall and speaking on the hospital and those great entities, but there is a community in Huntington that sits between
No question.
what's happening. And I know you had also said, you know, the city has to grow together. And I know you mentioned like growing with Marshall, but I don't know if Marshall is growing with the Fairfield community. Some people feel like Marshall is growing through the Fairfield community or growing over top of the Fairfield community, and it's not involving the Fairfield community. But we'll get into that a little later on with that. But because I know that's some concern of some people. So unless you want to tackle that now,
I'll be happy to tackle
like
it now. And
how are you going to have a relationship? How would you have a relationship with not just Marshall in the hospital, but if you're the mayor of Huntington? How are you going to be able to say, okay, you have to have a relationship with the Fairfield community? You know what I'm saying? And not the best interest of everybody, but the best interest of the Fairfield community, which has been here for forever.
it has been here forever. So I'd be happy to answer it. It's not just Fairfield. It's Westmoreland and it's Guyandotte, right? It's all the city. The city doesn't work unless it works for everybody, right? And what we have to see here in Fairfield, right, is you have to see jobs. You have to see people working. And so I've heard a lot of concern about gentrification, about what happens as how Greer starts to get developed and the hospital grows, but then where's the benefit to the community? It's happening here, but it's happening in the ACF property. It's going to happen out through Highline. What happens to the people there? How can they have jobs? Because these communities used to be a place where people lived and then walked down the street to a factory and went to work and went back to their house. It's not like that anymore. Our society has moved on. So I think what has to happen is that the city, and I say city including the neighborhoods, we have beautiful neighborhoods. I said Fairfield, I said the other two, Highline. These neighborhoods are the core, the character of our community, and they have to be represented by the city alongside the other two. So it's almost like a three-legged stool, right? That if one's not working, the other ones aren't working. And right now, I don't see the city benefiting as much, and I would like all of us to be able to grow and prosper from the growth that we're seeing in the others.
I see your wheels turning over there.
No,
So go ahead.
my wheels aren't turning. I'm just saying the perspective of, I understand the whole, but we're talking about residents that had families here for 4 or 5 generations,
right?
And what is the African American neighborhood in the city? Pretty much, you know, we're everywhere. I mean, people are all over. This is a diverse community as well. There's black and white people that live in Fairfield community as well. It's not just all black. It's only probably like 35% African American now, and that is because of displacement. So it used to be 60%. Now it's down to like 35%, and this development is continuing to displace the Fairfield community.
So how do you think we stop that, Norm?
Well, as you were saying, there's federal money coming down, and that federal money can be invested in the community. And how do we stop it? By listening to what the community wants. Let the community build homes. Let the community be able to fund recreation centers that develop young people, young students. So I think we stop that by listening, putting funding in the right place, and let the people decide what they want in the community and not what an outside entity wants for that community. I think, you know, and that's working together. That's working together in the city. You know what I'm saying? The three-legged horse. You know what I'm saying? Let the people in Highline decide what they want. Let the people in, you said Westmoreland?
Westmoreland, yep.
Let the people in Westmoreland decide what they want. But right now, the gentrification is, part of the definition is they tear down buildings and you're building up buildings, but it's not benefiting the residents that live in that community. So all the buildings that's being built up, and you're saying they need jobs, is not creating jobs for the people in the community.
This is my point. This is exactly my point, right? That if the people in the community don't have jobs in the community with those organizations to get built up, then you're going to get displaced, right? And so I have a business. I have a lot of friends that own businesses, right? And what I know for sure is that there aren't enough minority representations in those businesses. And there's a lot of different reasons why, and it's something that I've been really trying to figure out how to solve. Kate and I have 2 boys at Huntington High, right? And I go up to a football game on a Friday night, and I see lots of black kids that are either playing on the field, right, or hanging on the fence. And what I don't see is those kids then translating to work in this hospital. I don't see them working in my business. I don't see them working in these businesses. And so what we have to do, in my opinion, is you've got to start with these kids and you've got to get them jobs, right? And so when we build the cybersecurity center on 4th Avenue, we've got to find a way for people in the Fairfield community. How many blocks is it away from here? It's going to be 2 or 3 blocks.
Yeah.
And people are going to come from all over to create businesses or bring their businesses to 4th Avenue. And if we don't get people in the Fairfield community working in those businesses, we've missed an opportunity. We have to have the people of Huntington taking those jobs.
Right. I agree with you 100% there. I agree with you 100% there. And that's part of, and we're going to move on to some other questions. I don't want to get into that. We're going to move on to some other questions, man, because that's part of from, and like I said, this is a disclaimer. This is part of, you're right, we're only 4 blocks
Right.
from the viaduct. But these people go down to work, they want to come back on this side and come back home.
Right.
Not for generations. They want to have a place for their babies and their grandbabies, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
to call home. And pretty soon, it's not going to be the case.
Right.
It's not going to be the case. It'll be like people come in and it's like, wow, well, my grandmother did live there. Or we did live there. But that causes a sense of trauma, a sense of, you don't have a home to come back to, you know what I'm saying, necessarily. It's a sense of loss, you know what I'm saying? So
That's right.
That it affects the Fairfield community. But like I said, we're gonna talk more about that later. And I'm gonna let our live studio audience get into some questions a little bit later. I think if Patrick will take some.
I'll take 'em.
Did you have some questions too on the Facebook?
I just had one.
I don't know.
There was just one comment
Okay.
there, I think.
I thought I heard it.
Well, no, I think it's 2 comments. No, it was just people saying good point and stuff.
Okay.
Just comments. We appreciate the comments too. But let's get into because we all kind of got into this. I know economic development, but this is a question that I did want to ask. If elected, what would be your top 3 to 5 priority issues that you would focus on addressing as mayor?
So I don't think there is a mayor in this country that would say that public safety is not number one. And so I think that we have to make the city safer,
Okay.
right? It's not as safe as I would like it to be. We can look at crime stats. We can look at the number of violent crimes in the city. There's almost 1 a day last year. We can look at the number of drug arrests. We can look at the number of property crimes. Like, there's just too much. And I think there are things we can do to stop it, right? I think there are better policing techniques. I think there are better things that we can do in our communities. There are better things we can do with interventions. There are mental health stuff. There's lots of things we can do from a law enforcement standpoint, right?
I agree.
So you could start with drugs and crime. The homelessness issue is, for a lot of people, the number one issue in the city, right? And that is a messy, complex issue. What I know about homelessness, what I've learned about homelessness, is that the two things seem to be true. One is that the people on the streets don't want to be there, right? No one chooses to live that life. And I say no one, 99% of the people don't choose that life.
Right.
And I also know that people in the community don't want them on the streets either, right? And so if both of those things are true, and I believe that they are, then we can at least agree on the problem and we can start to work on it. And I think that problem, this is again where I'll say the hospital and Marshall and the city need to work together to solve it, is because 67% of the people on the streets that are living on the streets, they have a drug problem, a substance use disorder problem, or 62% of them have a self-assessed mental health issue, right? So this is not just as simple as go get a job, right? This is more complex, and you're going to need healthcare professionals, you're going to need social workers, and you're going to need city resources, and everyone come together to say, if this really is our number one problem, let's solve it.
Let's try to work on it.
Right. So, anyways, we're going to make it safer. Second thing, my second priority is making it more livable, right? Because people choose to go somewhere where they can raise a family, where they can have a good life, where they can have a job, right? And for us, you can look at what makes our cities, our schools, and our parks, and our libraries, right? And I think the city should have a voice in saying they all need to be funded, right? I've been trying to get people to focus on this issue to say, hey, I know the school's got a budget issue, but our parks and libraries are so much a part of what we are.
Very important. Yeah,
Right. And so we've got to make it more livable in that way. this flooding problem as well. I mean, how long has it
Oh my
flooded?
goodness.
How long is Fifth Avenue flooded? How long is Four Pole Creek flooded?
Yes.
Right. And so the thing about flooding is that water is a rational actor. What I mean is water goes to where you tell it to go. Right. And there are things that we can do. Now, we can't solve it as a city alone because our watershed is bigger than the city. It goes out into the county. Right. So the city has to work with the county, has to work with our county commissioners to say, hey, this is our problem. Let's fix it. Right. You know, we have people that are further upstream from us that are doing development. That affects that water runoff to us.
Yeah.
Right. The Army Corps of Engineers is a federal agency that is a terrific organization, but really historically hard to work with because of all the rules that are in place. Right. But if you don't get the city and the county, the state and those resources in here, this again is why about party affiliation is that this is how you get resources into our community to fix that flooding problem. So there's 1 and 2, safer, more livable. And the third thing I say is economic development. Right? I think we've got to have entrepreneurs. Half the new jobs that are going to be created are going to be created by small businesses. We've got to find a way to grow small businesses, empower entrepreneurs, get them funding, solve local problems. The best thing we can do is to find somebody that wants to solve a problem and get them the resources so they can solve it, because that's going to create jobs. It's going to solve our problem. It's going to help us grow.
Okay.
I can go for a long time about economic development.
And we're going to stay on that for a minute too, though, Patrick. We are. I know we had a viewer, kind of asked, what are your plans to help our young people get those jobs? So we'll stick with the economic development.
Yeah, this is something that has challenged me for many years. I have worked with a lot of people, some of the black pastors, some of the coaches, even gone down to the barbershops. Like, I've got to find people that want to work. And this, I think we have to start younger and younger. Like, I've tried to get people to work, and there's always some challenge. Everyone's got a challenge of some different kind. I think we've got to show people that the culture of work is important, right? I think that we've got to show them that showing up on time and doing something gives you self-esteem, gives you something internal that makes you feel good and that you're proud of. But that's got to start at a young age. And I think we've lost that across the country, but particularly here.
Yeah.
Right. So
They said wake up in the morning and throw newspapers.
that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
We
so,
have 2 or 3 routes, but anyway.
so I use Huntington High because it's such an easy example. Our sports teams are so good. I mean, how many state championships have we won? How many of those kids travel on a travel basketball team or a travel baseball team? They're dedicated. They know how to work hard
A lot.
when it comes to sports.
Right.
Right. Why doesn't that translate into our jobs? Because I'm telling you, I know business owners that right now I'll take 2 guys, I'll take 3 guys of any walk of life.
Yeah.
Right. But we can't get people to show up on time. We can't get people to work a full day. And that's a real issue.
Has this been a problem
I was just going to say,
after
because
COVID?
I do some hiring and everything too, and you will schedule interviews with people, and then we've made jokes about it. It's called ghosting.
Yes.
Like, they won't even show up for the interview, and it's such a waste of time, and it's so sad because I'm making adjustments to my schedule to accommodate you, and we've scheduled something. There's no accountability, there's no responsibility, and so I'm like, do I really want you working for me if you can't even that's
In my businesses, we have gone through the interview process. We have made them an offer. They have accepted the offer. We have done the physicals, and then we still hold our breath to see if they're going to show up on the first day of work.
Yeah, that's sad. Yeah.
So we've got to start young. We've
Gotta
got to
start
get these
young.
kids.
So
and
we
we've
gotta
gotta
get
give
those
them
Yeah,
jobs.
absolutely.
And I like not to summarize what you said, but I like what you said about letting them understand work ethic and how important it is, and that it is something to have good self-esteem in, to want to work and to want that effort. You got a question?
Yeah, and this is going along with as far as the how do we get people to work? Well, I know that when I was growing up, there used to be a summer, quote unquote, summer job program
Right.
for the teenagers that is no longer. How, I guess, what would you think about bringing that program back through the city?
Yeah, so I was with the black pastors recently, and we talked about this because many of them went through it, and they said that it was so enriching is the best way to say it.
You made your own money for the summer.
Yeah, it's that. And I think some of the, I'll say, child labor laws, some of this, like you can't get kids now and have them cut grass because of ear protection and eye protection from a city standpoint. It's what they were sharing with me.
Yeah, 'cause the grass blade.
Right. Look, I cut a lot of grass as a kid.
Don't say.
But there are obviously barriers. There's a reason that it stopped. I don't know what that was. And I think it's important to find ways to bring it back if we can. Right. And so I was with Maria Hill at the A.D. Lewis Center, and I was looking around, and I'm like, man, those walls need painted. Man, that we need weed whacking out on that. Why don't we have our kids doing this? To your point, like this seems like a great thing, and I don't know exactly why it's not happening, but I think it's important to find out and see if we can.
Right. Thank you for that question. And now next one on here. I know you said your 3 top things. I like that: housing and affordability. What strategies, or how will we address housing affordability and availability in the city? And it's going to kind of almost tie it back down to this what's happening here in the Fairfield community and maybe in Westmoreland too and Highline. But a housing anyway. How are you going to address that and not? Because I'm not just focusing on Fairfield community. Let's talk about the city.
We can focus on Fairfield
Let's talk about the city because I'm bipartisan. I can't be, you know what I'm saying? I can't.
Look,
so I just got
what's happening here? Fairfield is the gateway to the city. It's the first thing people see, and it is emblematic of everything else that's happening, right? And it usually happens here first, especially if it's bad, right? The drug problem started here and moved its way out, right? The housing problem started here and is moving its way out. We have a real housing problem in Huntington. We are not going to grow the city. One of my things I want to do is grow the city. 1950, our population peaked, and since then there's been a decline for the last 75 years. And there is no way that we're going to increase the population of the city unless we have housing, right? Because when people move here from the outside, again, if they're going to work at the hospital or Marshall, we hire a coach, we hire a doctor, someone comes in, they can't find housing in the city for them, and they've got money, let alone the people that don't have money looking for housing because we have a couple things going on. We've got blight. We've got abandoned houses that are eyesores that create crime, attract crime, and they're being left and abandoned from landlords that just ignore them, right? And then we haven't created an incentive. One of the things I like to do is create an incentive for people to reinvest in those houses to bring that housing stock back up, right? And if you find a way, whether it's through tax credits or incentives, or do something to get people to say, you know what, that's worth it for me to invest in. But they're not going to invest in it if right next door they've got a sober living home with 20 people in it with needles all over the yard. Right? Right? So you've got to find a way to right? You've got to find a way to make it so that people want to invest in those houses to get them up to speed. You also have to find a way for people in the community that have houses that are struggling, like inflation is so high. They got grocery, they got gas, they've got mortgage to keep their place up because it's expensive. Yeah. Right. And so if you can find a way to help people get their houses up to speed and cut the grass and paint and fix the shutter, right, then the guy next to him, the lady next to him will do the same thing. Right. So there's lots of different strategies, but if you don't fix housing, you can't have a place to grow.
Okay. You're allowed to clap in the
You have live claps out here. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got the audience mic on, so it'll pick you up. All right, so like I said, we're gonna get into all these questions. I'm gonna probably just sit and continue to talk. We're talking about civic engagement. That was one of the questions, or you pick one, Lady T, that you looked at.
We can do civic engagement. How would you work to increase citizen engagement and transparency in city government?
Well, those are two different questions. Can I break them apart?
Break them apart. Yeah, that's fine.
The first thing is people don't vote. They just don't vote. Right, you can look at our voter registration, and you can look at the numbers, and you can look at the number of people that actually turn out to vote. Sometimes they will if it's a really controversial issue, but they don't vote in the primary, right? And they don't turn out to vote. And so I think I've heard you say no
voice, no vote,
vote.
no vote, no voice, no vote, no voice. That's right.
And
you
I
can't
think,
complain.
Right, but people do. Right, so I think one of the things you have to do is, in my opinion, is you have to get to know the people in your neighborhood that are running for city council. Right, I have said all along that I'm running for mayor because I'm trying to make a difference. But I also encourage everybody in the city to figure out who's running for city council in their district. 2024, the district lines are changing, right, from 2022. So what you might have been in District 5 before, you might be in District 6 now, right? And if you don't know who's running, then how are you going to know who to vote for? But that takes time.
It does.
Kate and I have a son that's eligible to vote for the first time in this election.
Oh.
Right. So we've been going through this process, and he's like, well, how do I even know who some of these people are? It takes work.
Yeah.
It takes real work to know who's running for magistrate, right?
Yeah.
You're running for board of education. Who is in your city council?
And a lot of that,
Yeah,
these kids
yeah,
have
a lot of these
smartphones. A
things
lot of this
are
is on, all this technology. They can
Yeah.
find out on their phones.
They can, but it's hard.
It's hard. It is.
So
it is.
I guess
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is I would encourage people to think, to read,
Yes.
to talk, to go meet people, to come to meet the
Yes.
candidates, to watch wonderful
Yeah.
podcasts like this.
That's
This is-
right.
you have
That's
to-
right. That's right.
Doing it.
Yeah, we gotta get some
Yeah, I knew how to get a clap.
That's right.
So that's the first piece of civic engagement. The second piece was about transparency in government. In my opinion, this is I'll say a leadership principle that I kind of live by, is that if you don't have trust, you don't have anything, right? And so trust comes in so many different ways. Like, they always say it comes in on foot, but it out on horseback. 'Cause it takes a long time to build. And the way we did it at Marshall, when I joined the board, there wasn't a lot of trust between the faculty, the staff, between the administration, between the community, between Fairfield. There's still some work to do, right? There's lots of different ways that trust was broken down. But the only way I needed to do it when I became chairman was to start live streaming our meetings. I created my first Twitter account in order to say, this is what we're doing, here's the board agenda. To let people see it, because sunshine is a great disinfectant. When you let people see what's happening, you talk to them about it, you show them, like, come see, right? You want to know what's happening in the city council? Show up to see.
Right.
Right? You want to know what's going on in any of the communities? You should go see, because if you don't know, and you just hear
Yeah.
from somebody else,
Yeah.
and that's a problem. So I would say that no matter what it is, it's going to be
Yeah.
transparency, helps with trust, helps with solving problems together.
and working together.
That's it.
And working together. Building together. Teamwork make the dream work. So, sustainability in the environment. The environment is something that is critical, right?
Got to have it.
Gotta have it, right? So, what role do you think the city should play in promoting sustainability and environmental protection, addressing issues such as climate change?
Great question. So I don't even know where to start. First of all, my lovely wife, who's in the audience, is an environmental scientist. Right?
right.
She made her career in stream restoration and helping. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the environment, whether it's in our home with the the products that we use, or the parks or whatever. I also, our boys are both Eagle Scouts, right? So we're all the time out in the.
On my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty. God, my country, my baby scout law. Trustworthy,
He was a
honest, and all
scout.
the time.
What's up? That's strong. Yeah.
Scout's honor, Scout.
So you know the outdoor code. Right?
A little bit.
You
I'll
really-
be prepared. That's the only thing I remember.
Yeah. But we teach the boys to be conservation minded, right? And that just means using the resources you have, but also
Yeah.
leaving things better than you found them, and also means don't dirty stuff up.
Yeah.
And so, specifically as mayor, I think they play an important role. Number one, to set an example, right? I do it in my business today, so this is not like, hey, I'm going to do this if I'm mayor. I run several businesses, and we care a lot about the environment. We want to make sure that the water that our customers are using, we're in the water business at Service Pump, the water that is being used isn't polluting streams, because those streams are the ones that are going to go into our clean water. And if we don't have clean water,
Can't drink it.
can't drink it. Look at Flint, Michigan.
I was gonna say
Right.
Flint. Yeah.
What's Flint have to say about clean water? Right. So the city has, number one, a big budget, which means they spend a lot of money on a big customer, right? Being conservation minded, with that, you can help influence things, whether it's what you buy or what you don't buy. The other thing is that the city is responsible for our infrastructure. And so that infrastructure, like, we've got a lot of stuff going into the rivers and the creeks. We have a combined sewer overflow. I don't want to get into the actually how that works, right? But the way it works, when it rains, it goes down and it goes into our pipes and it goes out to the river. Unless it fills up too much, then the pipes where your sewer goes into, where your toilet goes into, shares the same pipe with the rainwater. And so when Four Pole Creek floods, that actually has sewage in it,
Ugh.
right? When it floods down here at Halgrier Boulevard, at that intersection with Washington Boulevard, that has sewage in it.
Yeah, that's
Right?
not good.
That's not healthy
That
for
is
anybody.
not healthy for
And then it fills your basement, right? And so as we talk about growing the city, it's hard to convince a family to come here and say, hey, why don't you move to Huntington, West Virginia? Every time it rains hard, your basement's going to fill with sewer water, right? That's a tough sell.
That's appealing.
Right. So anyways, I think environmental responsibility with the city is important. And I think it's one of the things that we can do is help fix this flooding problem.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for that answer too.
Thoughtful. That's good. The Boy Scout got it.
Now we were Troop 3, our Boy Scout Troop 3, and we actually was housed here at J.W. Scott Community Center. I grew up here in these housing projects, so we were the only black troop in the state of West Virginia at the time. Mike Cagle was our scout leader, and one of my relatives, my cousin Fred, was already in the scouts, and he got me involved in the scouts. But like I said, we would meet here, and it really was fun. We'd go camping at Arrowhead
Yeah.
all the time. That was our main place. But we went to Greenbow Lake. We went out to trying to think that it's in West Virginia. It's like 2 hours away from here. Seneca Rock.
Yeah. We were
so-
there 2 falls ago, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, those were opportunities. I got to get out and like we learned how to tie the knots. We went through.
What happened to Troop
jamborees,
3?
we went to all-
Is it still here?
No, it's not. But it's not that they couldn't come back. And one of my friends that was in the troop with me, Eric, he actually said that when we first opened the center, he was like, "Man, let's get the Boy Scouts back." You know what I'm saying? Because we remember just going out there canoeing in the lake, making fishing poles, just everything that we did. You know what I'm saying?
I see something
You
for
ever
your
been
future.
snipe hunting?
Yes, I've been on a sniper.
You on a snipe hunt? Okay.
I've sent
We
people
gonna
on
leave that.
snipe hunt.
You send people on snipe
Yeah.
hunts? All right. So,
Yeah.
One other question. I'm sorry, I won't ask anymore.
no, go ahead.
You can ask all the questions you want.
Because I was listening to you speak on how the rainwater comes in
Yeah.
with the mixes with the sewer water.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay, so I guess my question is like for homeowners, they have to pay a rainwater tax, and I'm wondering, would you? I don't understand why you would have to pay for water.
Rainwater.
God sends down, and what is the purpose, and what is your thought on the rainwater tax?
Your question is a little more complex than that. The stormwater utility controls our utilities to drain the city. So we've got a flood wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the flood wall keeps the river out, but if the flood wall goes up, it also keeps the water in, and the city becomes a bowl, right? Typically, when it rains, the flood wall gates are not in, right, and the water would go into the pipes, go off your house, down your downspout, into a pipe, and out to Fort Cold Creek, right? And that infrastructure has to be maintained because it's been there for 100 years. It's one of the oldest infrastructures in the country, and when those pipes collapse, they cause sinkholes. And it makes the roads above it collapse, and that's when you get water breaks, and that's when you get all kinds of issues, right? And so that tax money is going to fix the infrastructure, and if you don't fix it, it's all going to crumble, right? The good news is that there was a bond that was passed in the city a few years ago, and there's going to be about $200 million spent on a new wastewater treatment plant and to fix 3rd Avenue and 5th Avenue pump stations to help solve some of this stormwater problem that we're having. And so, unfortunately, you can't do it without tax money. We have a lot of federal money coming, a lot of state money matching coming, but the city has to put up some of that in order to fix it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for answering.
Yeah.
One of the viewers asked, Ms. Lewis, will and can you create a youth job opportunity within your business?
Ask me that question again.
Can you create youth job opportunity within your business?
100%. I would, yes. So, to some degree, yes. I will. I have so much work to do, and we would hire folks that want to work. Right. I need them every summer. I try to put my kids to work sometimes. Right. So yes, I would absolutely, if we could find kids that wanted to work.
Yeah.
Again, there's issues with safety, there's issues with supervision and all that stuff, but yes.
Okay. That answered the question to one of the viewers there. So
Yep.
Just wanted to.
I think the question I had was, does your vision and agenda align with what is happening now, or do you feel we need Cabell County needs a new direction?
Does Cabell County need a new direction?
Mm-hmm.
Let me say this. If I was happy with the status quo, I wouldn't be running for mayor. Right.
Fair enough.
And so there are some very positive things happening in this community. There's very positive things happening in Huntington and Cabell. But if it was the way I wanted it to be, I'd still be just running my business and going camping trips with my boys, right? So I think that there are some more positive change. There are more opportunities that I think we need to take advantage of. Again, number one, we got to make it safer. I am not happy with the safety factor in the city. I am not happy with the fact that it's not livable, that our streets flood, that our schools don't have funding, that our parks don't have funding, that our libraries don't have funding. Those things I'm not happy with, right? And then I'm not happy that our population continues to decline. And so I want to grow our population, and I think the first two, fixing the first two will make the third one happen.
Good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I know it was from one of them.
Yeah,
I like
from
that.
the,
'Cause-
I like that question. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. Real good question. Now, well, shoot. I mean, we're about at the time too. Unless we can continue. Got any more questions? Anybody in the audience want to ask?
Any more questions? The what?
Speaking, we can't hear you. Container homes.
So my question is, what is your thoughts on container homes?
Built
Building and shipping containers.
built in Huntington.
Built in Huntington, or there are some container buildings here that or been manufactured somewhere else and been brought in. What are your thoughts?
About using them for
Home.
homes? Well, I don't know a lot about using container homes, the reasons we would or we wouldn't. I know we need more homes, and I know that we've got a lot of homes that we can invest in now. I don't think that home sites are what is stopping us from growing. I think that creating that capitalist mechanism to make it all work is just like the WNBA, right? Like we've got to make it work by having people invest. If container homes are a part of that solution, I'd be happy to hear about it. But truthfully, I don't know much about why we.
Are those just like the mini homes? Are they? What are they? I don't know much about
Yeah.
them either.
That's fine.
So-
You can educate me afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what would you say to someone who says it's not? I know we kind of touched on that, but what would you say to encourage someone to go out and vote?
Not many people I know seem to be happy about whoever their elected official is. Right? If I ask them, do you like so and so, or do you like what's happening? They're like, nah. Okay, well, go do something about it. And not many people can run for office, right? And so what you can do is at least vote. And so I would encourage them to like say, hey, like this is one little thing. This is one small step to have your voice. And what I hear back is my vote doesn't matter. That's what we always hear.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the number one response. Yeah,
That's the number one response.
My vote don't matter.
Right. And I think people matter. Right.
Yeah.
And I think their voice matters. And so I would just encourage them to do it. And I'd probably pick them up and take them to the polls.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So, I know you said you want to build a city and grow the city and work together. And everybody has to work together. Marshall and Cowboy and I know you asked me earlier what one thing I wanted to answer. How would I fix that? Or I would say, I think the opportunities that's coming down now, that's happening now, that Positive People Association is a community-based organization. We do a lot for our community. We're not the only voice for Fairfield.
You're a big voice.
There are other voices in Fairfield, but we are a community-based organization. We are a resiliency hub for many people and families, you know what I'm saying? And, a lot of people say, well, why do you need another community center in your neighborhood if you already have one? But we don't do the same thing, and it's two different entities, but they're both needed. Not one, they're both needed. Saying we're a community-based organization, I say that to say Marshall and Cowboy has the opportunity to work with a community-based organization in the Fairfield community. And I think they should take advantage and take that opportunity with the funding that's coming down. And I just wanted to, when you asked me earlier, how can we help it? How can we fix it? That's what I mean. Let's work together. Let's not say, oh, we want to work with you in the future and we love what you're doing and keep doing what you're doing. But in the meanwhile, that is just like gaslighting and saying one thing and then over here working on something else. Like I said, people believe these entities are going through and over the community and not growing with the community. So I just wanted to bring that one back up just to say, so we hope that, the next mayor, because I know there was a question on there too about, no, the old question, the one you asked about how, about and she asked you, Lady T asked, do you believe that what's happening now and what the mayor is doing now, do you continue to walk that path, or do you, because you're going to have a staff.
Right.
So how do you develop your staff? How do you develop your staff for your leadership style if you become mayor?
It's a good question. I've had the privilege of leading a lot of different organizations, and I've come in as a new leader in that, right? Whether it's in the military or in business where the business was established. And inevitably, there's always turnover. There are people there that are really, really good that are either tired and want to retire, right? I know a lady that used to run hospice.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
How do you know her?
Yeah. And she wanted to retire.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a fantastic lady came and took her place.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Whenever somebody comes in new, you look and say, are these people still on the ride with me?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And some of them say, no, look, I'm good. And
Yeah.
others say, yeah, I want to be a part of it. And some of them were like, I'll wait and see. Like, I'll check you out. Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to try to do is be very, very clear about my objectives. Right. The style of leadership that I have is about trust and transparency, and about identifying an objective. I have done my very, very best to tell everybody how I think about problems. You can go to my website at patrickfarrellwv.com. I know you want me to get that in.
I did. That was my next question too.
Yeah.
I wanted you to play that too.
So that website, if you go to the bottom, there's a thing called Patrick's Posts. And I've been writing a weekly blog every week about my journey. Now, this blog is about me, right? It's not a campaign thing. It's about how I think about problems, how I learn about problems, because I want people to see this is kind of the playbook for Patrick, right? This is how I think about problems. I get all this information, and then I'm going to identify objectives, and then I'm going to get the people and the resources to collaboratively problem solve it. You've said several times, get more people at the table.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to look for people in my administration that are like, yes, that's how we do this. That's how we're going to solve this. Right. And if you're not on board with collaborative problem solving, you probably don't want to work with me. Right. And that's okay. If you do, I want the most ambitious, talented people that are like, these problems have got to go, to say, I'm in. Right. I want to solve drugs. I want to solve crime. I want to solve flooding.
Right.
Like, those are passions for me that they would feel good about solving, and then giving service to the city. I'm going to find people with that inner fire and try to get them to come with me.
Okay.
So, I got one more. So, everybody right now is blazing the campaign trail. And again, it's all politics. So if you were to be elected mayor, how accessible is Patrick Farrell going to be?
I would say for everybody, you should look at what they're doing now. How accessible are they now? Now, people will come out and say, well, I'm on the campaign trail. I'm very accessible. Right. When I was back to the Marshall Board of Governors, right? I created a Twitter account so people could engage with me. I'd never had that before, right? Social media lets you do that, right? I created a Facebook account. I've never done that before, right? But that's so people can get to me, right? I've given out my phone number, my email address, and the reality is that today, anybody can be reached. The real question is how quickly you're going to respond.
Yes, that's
Right?
it right there.
Right,
Yes.
because people are going to be able to get in touch with me,
Right.
and I'm going to do my very best, right? Because I believe that when you listen to the voices, when you have people's input, it not only helps you see what's ahead of you, but it helps you find the path to get to your objective, right? I'm going to have very clear objectives, right? When I talk about what I'm going to do, concrete things that I want to solve, and having input is going to be great. Now, some of it's going to be noise,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to put out that noise,
Yeah.
right? But some of it's going to be, oh, that's good. I didn't think about that. I used the wrong language when I was talking with those people, because I did this at Marshall a lot, right? Where I would say something that I didn't intentionally mean, but it came off wrong because I wasn't a part of a university setting, right? That's going to happen when I get into city government and never been a part of city government. They're like, no, you said that wrong. And that's going to be good to hear, right? So anyway, the point is that hearing feedback from folks has to be what any good leader does to forge the path forward.
I agree.
So you gonna keep the Patrick post? Now I know you're supposed to bring that up to me earlier, because I told you, when I was trying to Patrick, I read a couple of Patrick posts, and I did find it intriguing, interesting to see that. So I mean, keep that up too. So where can people find you?
My website is patrickfarrellwv.com. You go to the bottom, you'll find Patrick's post. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. All those things are online that you can see what I'm up to.
And if not you, then who?
If not me, then who?
Yeah.
As far as who should be mayor?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Let me answer that in maybe a longer way than you're expecting. I think the next mayor needs to embody certain principles, right? I think they, number one, need to be a collaborative problem solver. You've heard me say that already, right?
Right.
Like if you don't have, if not me, it needs to be somebody that has, first of all, that. I think it has to be somebody that doesn't want a job. Like I don't think service to the city is somebody that, I need a job and I want to do this, right? I think it needs to be somebody with a servant's heart that says, I'm doing this because I want to make the city a better place, right? I want to serve the residents of the city. And then I think that if you're going to find somebody that has vision, one of the things I'll say that Mayor Williams did is he always had a very positive vision about the future. He let us see things. The America's Best Community is one of the best things he did because he talked about a community that maybe didn't quite exist, but he put that vision out there to say, you know what, we can achieve that, right? And I think that if it's not me, it's somebody that's going to embody those things. A collaborative problem solver, somebody with a vision, someone that can bring us together to solve these problems. So if you can find them, that would be great. They can be our next.
All right. So you always ask about advice if he had.
Yeah, I was going to say, what advice would you give to our upcoming generation future leaders? What would you say to them?
I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of upcoming future leaders, right? My Boy Scouts, we've had a big troop. We probably had 24 kids in it at one point. I've got a lot of employees that come to me at 18 years old, and they say, hey, you know, they're trying to find their way. And the first thing I say to all of them is to believe in yourself, right? If you don't believe in yourself, you can't believe in much else, right? And so for that, you're gonna have to figure out what you're good at, what you're bad at, what you like, what you don't like, and you're gonna have to trust that you are good enough to go do whatever you want, right? And so I think that belief in yourself will take you a long way.
Good advice. Nice.
Good advice.
And before we go,
Yeah.
we have to give a special shout out to Charlene Farrell. He holds a special place in my heart. I hope you're watching.
Thank you.
And I hear there's a flying story, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes. It was a
Flying what?
A flying story.
No, we gotta hear that now.
So I don't know the full story.
Yeah,
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the one from 20 years ago?
I think so. You were flying through Huntington, maybe?
I was at an air show in Pittsburgh, and I was flying back to North Carolina, and it was a beautiful day. And so we decided not to fly straight back. We decided to follow the river, the Ohio River, down the river. And then when we got to Huntington, we were going to turn left and go down to North Carolina. And so I called my mom.
You know, just turn left in the airplane, like it's just like in the car. I'll just turn left here.
Yeah.
So this was a small place. This is a little F-15. And I told her, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be there about noon over the park. You know, come out and see me. And what I didn't know is that she was going to a Rotary meeting that day. And so she was in this meeting with, I don't know, 50 people, 100 people. I don't know how many were there. And she's like, all right, everyone, we're going outside. And so we came down, and I got over Harris Riverfront Park and got a little slow, and then had to turn the afterburner on to kind of, and so it got loud. Right. And so that story has turned into all kinds of
All
crazy-
kinds of stories.
where I was upside down under the bridge of Chuck Yeager. You know,
I heard you almost hit our
I
building
almost
and
hit
all
your
that.
building,
Yes.
Frank Fuscardo, Frank's Barbershop says I shattered his window. Yeah, there's been all kinds of
great.
stories. But yes, I've got a great picture of my mom from that day where she had pom poms in her hand, looking
Oh,
up, and she thought maybe I'd be able to see the pom poms.
oh, that's great.
So that's the story.
The love of a mother.
I love you, Mom.
All right, we want to thank all our viewers out there on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you for staying with us. Thanks for all the comments. No, I didn't get to Renee Branch's comment about what. Thank you guys for the comments. We want to thank our studio audience today for coming in. Great questions. And last and definitely not least, we definitely want to thank our guest,
Absolutely.
our mayoral candidate, Mr. Patrick Farrell.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining the show. And then don't forget to tune in to the BIZ, the Biz with NormBeezy.
And Lady T.
I guess we should say peace. We're gonna work on our outro.
Remember, no vote, no voice.
No vote, no voice. We're gonna work on our outro. We got an outro song.
Thanks for tuning in to the Biz. That's the BIZ with your boy Norm B.
And Lady T.
You can also check us out on the biz.buttsprout.com for more episodes. And we look forward to hearing from you or seeing you on the next one.
On the next one. On the next one. The next one.